face. Oh, me and him used to be so close.
So
So
we're recording
Dan,
now.
just so
Perfect.
All right, we're good.
Bill was like my first Glen K. brought in the military.
Wow, that's a
know
big
that.
honor.
I appreciate that. I don't know what that means, but I appreciate it.
It means you guys are you probably fucked at least once or twice.
I mean, we're not judging, are we? Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
No,
I mean,
absolutely not.
oh, thank
the
God.
youth pastor's not on yet, so we're good.
No, not
Yeah.
yet. Not yet. Eventually he will be, and we'll see where we're at.
Yeah. Do you know this guy pretty well?
Yeah, he's been on my podcast several times. He's also my jiu-jitsu coach.
Oh, sick.
oh.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he's super cool guy, super rad guy. I don't know how to describe him other than he's a youth pastor who practices murdering his friends. Like,
Fun. That sounds like a good guy.
what a guy! He's a sweetie. He's a sweetie.
That's
So
good.
how do you know Scotty?
We were in at FE Warren together and worked with how many years? We were 2 years before you left? 3 years probably?
Yeah, 2-3 years. Yeah.
2 years.
But I mean, that was enough time for me and Dan fell in love.
Oh, well, dude, I used to work the gate because I met him at TRF on FE Warren, and I worked the gate, and this dude would rip in his like 67 Nova. Is that what it is? A 67?
66.
66 Nova
The
coming
Avon?
up, him and his wife. Oh, yeah. Things beautiful, man. And we were always like talking at the gate because Scotty's a nice fucking guy.
Yeah.
So I go through TRF in doc, I make it through, and I'm get on team, and it's like finally I'm like, okay, I can talk to people a little bit. And I walk up to him and I'm like, hey, I used to work the gate. And he's like, we're not fucking friends. Fuck you. I was like, oh my God. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
So I heard stories about the Nova, like when he would call it the Avon. So Scotty used to have the Juggernaut, Juggy. It was this it was like a 740 Beamer that I swear was up armored. Like it weighed 1 billion pounds. The glass was like 1.5 inches thick. It handled like a son of a biscuit, man. Like,
yeah,
it would take.
I never lost control.
No, we never died. There were a couple of times coming back from this from the Necro concert, we probably could have and or should have died. However,
like Scotty.
Yeah, there's it's kind of just like accepting your fate. Like, you know it's gonna happen, so you just let it happen.
Yeah,
Not even seize up. Just let the wind carry your sails.
Jason's coming in, boys.
Perfect.
All right, and we're in.
All right.
It's connecting to audio.
Yeah.
I think.
Is that the gym? Oh, those aren't all of his kids, but I'm sure one of them is back there.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Awesome.
Nice poncho, by the way.
Yeah, it's great.
God, the 90s called, yeah. I mean, if you couldn't break my arm real quick, I would make a lot more fun.
I've been wearing this thing for like 2 weeks now.
Hey, it's quarantine, baby. You got to do what you got to do. You know.
Happy quarantining, my friends.
This is the longest my hair has been in years.
By the way, that mustache is regal. That thing is.
This
is looking nice, dude.
That mustache is in service to our great land.
I'm going to go deal with the Army soon, and I'm not cutting this because I don't care about regs. I'm not wearing a uniform for the next 4 years.
So, we don't want to go too much into on the podcast about what it is that you're going to do in the military that doesn't have you wearing a uniform for a couple of years, because that opens up a whole lot of okay. Yeah. I would have lied. I would have said something else. I would have made it way cooler. I'm
going to be an instructor.
All right. Going to be a teacher. An educator.
Going to be a teacher.
A leader of learned men.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to call them men, but I mean, peons.
Soldiers, privates, airmen. Yeah. Well, it's very cool. It's very cool that you're getting to do something different, man. So congratulations on that. So
thank you,
Dan. A quick question, sir.
Yeah.
Let's get all the plugs out up front. What is the name of your podcast, sir?
It's Zoobox Podcast. Find us anywhere streaming, anywhere you can find a Spotify, iTunes, you name it. I mean, Castbox, we're on there. Come and listen to us. We're a wild bunch of guys. We have some fun.
Very, very cool. Jason Chavaria, you want to give a quick breakdown of your resume, let folks know who you are and what it is that you do.
I coach jiu-jitsu. I'm a youth pastor. I work with behavioral health teenagers in the high school. I go on. I skateboard. I play guitar.
Hell yeah. I play guitar too, brother. Don't worry.
Not very well, but he plays it.
He's got a guitar behind him. It's, if nothing else, it's a good decoration.
I mean,
I
yeah.
see it.
Yeah. I have several.
I see
I have too
Batman.
many. Oh yeah, man. Got it all.
He's got several guitars, enough to necessitate an entire rack.
It's bad. It's bad. I have more guitars worth more than my car. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
To be fair, most of us are probably driving beaters.
I mean, I am driving a beater. I promise you.
I got a super duper sweet 07 Highlander, sir.
I got an 02 Trailblazer, man.
Woo!
Not too bad. It's classy. It's the LTZ. So.
Oh, see,
nice.
I had the regular Trailblazer as well. That thing, if it was worth the shit when I bought it, it wasn't when I killed it.
I'm taking care of this as best as I can because I'm out of the military now. Pay is not always as stable, so I'm just trying to take care of her. She's doing good though so far.
Fair enough. All right. So Scott, how are you doing? You want to get this thing started? This was your idea. You brought us all together.
Well, first of all, so you messaged me. So me and Bill go back to Iraq 06, and I've told multiple people this.
Back before that, Germany 06. Yeah.
Germany, but after Iraq 06, literally you could ask me to do anything and I will do it. So you messaged me, you said, hey, watch this video and, tell me what you think. So I think maybe 20 minutes into this video, I was like, man, Dan, this is kind of a Dan's Alley thing. So I started, I wrote Dan down in my note. I reached out to him. So I made all these notes about it. And obviously you brought Jason in. Nice to meet you, Jason. Go God. All right. So, you reached out and said, watch this video. And I watched it. And me and Dan talked about this. I'm not the conspiracy theorist. I'm not the let's go out and try to figure out what's going on with the world thing. I like to put my arms out to the side. And whatever I can touch is what I control. So I don't go much past that. But honestly, I watched this video and they start getting into all this stuff and I'm watching it. And this is probably the first conspiracy theory video I watched the whole way through.
Okay.
And in my opinion, as a quote unquote sheep watching it, I'm like, man, how do people not understand this on their, I knew all this before I watched the video. I don't need a video to explain to me what's going on into, what is it? Out of the Shadow?
Out of Shadows,
Out of the Shadow. Yeah.
Yeah, Out of the Shadow. I knew all this before I watched it. And I just kind of pass it by right now because I understand there's horrible things going on in the world, but I'm only reaching out to my own sphere of influence. And if there's other people out there who don't realize this is going on, Jason, you're in the church. I'm what you would call a new Christian. I've been in the church for maybe 5 years now. I can go pull out my baptism records and yeah. And I'm like, man, I not being so deep into this stuff. I watch TV and when we were all kids, you'd see the hero he got kissed on the cheek by a girl. And it was like, wow. He got kissed on the cheek by a girl. He's a hero. And now you have young kids in exploitive positions doing whatnot. And it's okay. People don't bat an eye at it. What was PG or PG-13 when we were young is definitely not what is PG-13 nowadays. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Sorry.
Crazy.
Jason, do you think that's by design? And if so, or if not, why?
Yeah, I think it's by design. I think I think it could have been that bad back then, but I don't think they had the culture wasn't like at that state, and it's the numbing of the senses, right? And then there's the making sin normal or calm, you know. And I mean when we think about normal, I remember my psych saying it's a thing on a washer.
Normal's a setting on a dryer, yeah.
Yeah. And then they explain normal in psychology as not committing harm to yourself or others. And then they would take that and then they would just describe it as like, well, if it's, sensual pleasure and they're really not hurting anybody or themselves, then it is normal, right? But like in that video, he said they were causing like a chasm in the psyche of children by viewing sexual images at 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, and introducing them to sexuality at such a young age. It does do damage. And you could see without the videos, like say you take a trauma victim that's been sexually abused, and see their lifestyle and how they've had or tried to cope with it and been through countless problems of addiction in many different areas, trying to put a Band-Aid on this trauma. And it seems like these movies are traumatizing the kids early and getting them hooked on stuff through their life. I don't know.
And I'll give you that. And yeah, so you have videos doing that and you have video games doing that. And I mean, and then each parent's kind of doing their own thing. As parents, we're falling to the left or to the right. Ask Dan, ask Bill. I can go savage at a moment's notice with adult companions. But at home, I mean, I have a 16-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old. Each one of them has probably heard me swear once.
Right.
And I'm very good at not doing that in front of my kids. But I have my kids coming home off of bus rides with other parents' kids. Yeah. And my son is like, Dad, what's the N-word? Dad, what does F this mean?
Porn.
What is porn? I'm like, thank you, wife. My kids are coming home. Well, Zayden was 6?
No,
when he asked about porn.
Oh, no, that was this year. Eli.
Okay, so 5th grade, I have a kid in 5th grade going, what is porn? Yeah. You asked me in 5th grade.
Don't let anyone else.
You know what I mean? At 5th grade, I had no concept of porn. Yeah. But also, mainstream media wasn't pushing it. I didn't have all the access to the internet that kids have these days. I didn't have mainstream media desensitizing all this stuff.
Right.
So me as a parent of 5 kids, I'm like, how do I explain what porn is to a 5th grader? It's wild.
Right.
Also, my only kid that has a cell phone is 16.
Wow.
So they go to, my 12-year-old goes to sleepovers. All of her friends are on cell phones the entire night. She's just sitting there bored out of her mind because they don't want to communicate with each other because they have all this media down their throats saying you need cell phones, you need all this constant information, you need to be constantly fed.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2nd graders, 3rd graders have cell phones constantly pushing all this media propaganda down their throats. And it's more often than not, it's negative stuff. I mean, it's a lot harder to find something positive on the internet than it is to find something negative. Am I wrong?
I agree.
Yeah. So in this video, I mean, we're kind of going way off topic down a rabbit hole here, but this video circles around that whole thing, in my opinion.
I don't think you're off topic.
Go ahead, Jason.
Because it's all about molding the youth because they're the future.
And what do they want our youth to be? You know what I mean? Little heathens who are falling in line with whatever the corporations want them to be. But Michael, what does the corporations want our kids to be?
Consumers.
Where are we going with this?
Ultimately, it's I believe it's to make everyone a consumer. The goal is to make everybody need something that they have to get from someone else, almost on a subscription that they have to keep in their life. Otherwise, their life diminishes without it. Whether it's the use of a cell phone and social media like Instagram or Facebook, we're constantly using to upload and share, like anyone actually cares. Like our social media should really matter to anyone's life. I mean, I guess regardless of what you're putting out there, you can't put it out there for yourself. But there's a lot of ideas. There are a lot of ideas of agendas. There's the Jewish agenda, there's the gay agenda, there's this agenda, there's that agenda. And on one hand, I think that it's very easy to say, to play like groups against each other, because just about everybody benefits from just about every terrible thing that happens. There's, whether or not you're the hidden hand behind it, there are profiteers to whatever the incident is, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's sacrificing kidnapped children so that Huma Abedin can get her adrenochrome fix. I think it's a goal just to make one generalized consumer that you don't have to sell a bunch of different products to. It's about creating the illusion of choice so that everyone just kind of gets stuck into the same 3 or 4 molds that can be easily controlled.
Dan, I see you shaking your head. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's absolutely a fantastic point. Everyone's got their own points on this. And I think consumerism is definitely the intention of social media. I mean, it's even saying the psychological effect of like the roulette wheel or whatever, like that gambling effect. It gives you the same psychological effect as gambling. It's that constant spinning up. Okay, hey, I'm going to post a video. I'm going to see how many likes I can get. And every 10 minutes you're checking. Oh man, I got 10 likes, 20 likes, so on and so forth. And I think as far as protecting our youth from that psychosis, and even ourselves, but especially people with people with children, I think it comes down to parenting. And I think that's really what we have to understand, is being a good parent, really taking the initiative and making sure that an 8-year-old doesn't have a cell phone when they don't really need it. Because we all grew up without cell phones, going over to a friend's house. We all survived.
Speak for yourself.
I think we did okay.
Speak for yourself, man. I had one in '86. I didn't have one in '86.
He's sitting over there.
Big old brick.
Yeah, he's just ripping, dude. But I really do think it comes down to parenting and being a proactive, vocal, aware parent. And I think that would solve a lot of problems. But then again, if they've grown up in that same consumerism and they are in the psychosis, you see it's kind of out of that for a lot of people.
You definitely see the social media influence in kids that have their own Instagram page versus kids that don't. I have one child that is on social media, and then one that is absolutely not on any kind of social media. And you can see the interaction, the way that they change. If you take away a cell phone from a kid in a very short amount of time, especially if they weren't kids that were active and interacting with other kids, you take that phone away, they're going to start interacting with actual human beings real quick. It's the same thing with humans. With adults, we've just kind of in a Zoom meeting, we're doing it differently than a group chat, which is far less satisfying. Here, we're interacting, we're being as social as we can. And we have kids that are taking their lead from elsewhere. What are you drinking, by the way?
Oh,
Yingling.
Classic.
Oh,
God's
man.
beer.
Over here on the eastern side of the Mississippi, man, I gotta drink my Yingling.
Best thing to come out of Pennsylvania since, I don't know, like the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, I was literally thinking. Yeah, exactly. The Liberty Bell, maybe. Somewhere around there.
Rocky.
Yeah, we're going to pass that one. Stallone, he's a celebrity, probably knows Epstein.
He probably does.
So let's talk about it. Let's go back to the movie if you guys would like to. So what were some of the things that stuck out to you, Dan? What were some of the notes that you were like, this requires more research?
when you're watching it, and yeah, they start off the Hollywood stuff, but when they really get into some of this, how many people are involved with the Satanism, are these high influential people in society are so involved with this Satanist woman? What's her name? I think you said it before, Aberdeen.
Marina. Okay, there's Huma Abedin, who was Hillary Clinton's chief of staff, but Marina Abramovin, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Marina Abramovin,
the artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's done spots with Bill Gates? They pulled apparently off of YouTube.
Oh yeah, the Apple, the new virtual reality, augmented reality stuff, and she's that whole kind of stuff. I've always suspected it with, if you go back and watch Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, and he alludes to the fact of the rich and powerful being Satanists or some sort of believing in some malevolent being, and I thought that was the thing that stuck out to me the most.
So allegedly that was supposed to be kids in Eyes Wide Shut, which makes it super duper ill. May I share one of the few problems that I had with this documentary?
Absolutely.
So they didn't give credit to the people who came before them, right? So the first 20 or 30 minutes where they start going into the CIA links to Hollywood, what Hollywood comes from, that actually a huge amount of that work is generated by a guy named Jay Dyer. You can find Jay's analytics or Jay's analysis anywhere you find a podcast. You can find his YouTube page. But he did a book called Esoteric Hollywood, where he breaks down a lot of the imagery that you see and its roots and where it comes from and where it's used today. He also has a TV series that is available on Gaia. But that first 20 or 30 minutes, that was all Jay Dyer stuff. Now, I had some notes as well. When they talked a little bit about, very briefly, on the military-industrial complexes association with the 1960s and Laurel Canyon. That actually, most of that comes from a book called Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon, which is about, in the first chapter of that, a lot of that comes from just the introduction that Jim Morrison's dad was the commander of the ship that was involved in the Gulf of Tonkin. Now, for those listeners who aren't familiar with the Gulf of Tonkin, that was the incident that led to the Vietnam War that didn't actually happen.
Yep.
So there we go.
Yeah.
But that was Jim Morrison's dad. But a lot of the information that they had that didn't come from questionable sources was stuff that they didn't really give credit to. So if you like that sort of thing, they're not telling you where to find the good information. They're treating it like they are presenting all of this good information themselves. Mm-hmm. One of the other issues that I have is, Liz Conklin, I believe is her name. I'm probably mispronouncing it. She's the Pizzagate lady. So she very, very recently came out and one of the theories that she's pushing now is that, I don't know if you're familiar with QAnon.
Oh yeah, man, let's go. No.
She said JFK Jr. is likely Q. Like this is all stuff you can look up.
Really?
So
that's a little stretch, huh?
So, but let's attach that to other conspiracy theories, right? So,
true. Absolutely.
Now, are you familiar with the film Dark Legacy?
Yes.
So Dark Legacy, for those of you that are not familiar, it is a film about the assassination of JFK and the links to the Bush family. Now, Dark Legacy 2 is about the assassination of JFK Jr. at the hands of Hillary Clinton. So, hear me out. And this is big picture here. Let's say that JFK Jr. faked his death in 1999, okay? And he is Q. What law enforcement has not been arresting Hillary Clinton for the last 21 years for the assassination of John F. Kennedy Jr.? Who's... Damn it, Obama.
Damn
it. 99, what, Bush? Clinton was in office in 99, wasn't he? And then Bush?
He was. Now,
okay.
However, you also, Clinton was in office at that time, right?
So he was on his way out.
He was on his way out. Hillary is, and this is where it comes in. This is the why. Hillary wants to become an elected official in the state of New York. Now, you already have JFK Jr., a well-loved citizen of the state of New York, potentially running for office. Now, if you have, and this is like there's a lot of dark stuff where it all kind of comes together between families like the Bushes, like the Clintons. You talk about secret societies like the Skull and Bone Society. George Bush and John Kerry, our two presidential candidates, were both members of the same Yale-based secret society. These are the people who we look to as moral pillars. After September 11th, we had to trust Bush. He had to be our guy because he was the guy. He was the guy that, okay, unlimited minutes. Thank you, host.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right. We're not going to plug that because China owns it, but okay.
What? Man, they own pretty much everything, including our debt. It's okay. What are we going to do? Default on loans? So if you want to give into the world where JFK Jr. is Q, then the only way that works is the fake death of JFK, who knew that Hillary Clinton was trying to assassinate him.
So JFK Jr. was flying, right? He's went disappearing during a flight. Is that the same JFK?
Same JFK Jr.
Right?
Same one.
Yeah. Which would be technically the easiest way to hide a death is by flying it and then disappearing, right?
Yeah. See, I don't know if they recovered bodies. I'm not that.
I don't think they did. As far as I remember.
So
yeah, I don't remember recovery either.
If you're going to assume that everyone is 100% on the up and up in this film, then that's kind of what you've got to believe, and that's kind of what you got to go with. Is that you have to question your sources of information. All right, you have to look into them. And one of the things that this film made it very very easy to do is research the information that they're giving you from this particular person. You can investigate who this person is and what crazy shit they might have said, but we're supposed to take your word that you did this work that I know and that other fans of these people's work know that you took from them, right? That you're not giving credit to. Why are you not giving them credit, but you're giving legitimacy to someone else? Like, if you believe that the folks behind Marvel and DC are really into some dark shit, then you saw that shit when you were making Batman movies or when you were making Spider-Man movies, and you chose to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's
So,
a world.
Real quick, let's go. Can I go off on my Marvel rant real quick?
Yeah, by all means.
And Jason, this will bring you in. So, I did some work not long ago with a company that rhymes with Marvel. Maybe it is Marvel. I'm not going to say yes or no. But a majority of the people that I worked with were very Satanistic, very, the
dark.
Hollywood. They didn't, dark people. And I befriended one of them on Instagram. I don't want to give her a full name, but it ends with 666. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that's what's kind of guiding that. And I have another good friend from high school who is in that whole culture. And he's talked to me once or twice. I'm not going to say his name, but he's like, man, things are weird. So I'm in Georgia, and he works in Atlanta in a major film industry in Atlanta. And it's not what I would call a Christian environment. It's the exact opposite. It's very unholy.
Just debauchery.
Yeah, debauchery. Thank you. They have set boyfriends, set
my kind of
girlfriends. Yeah. So, and it's that we're talking about that. And it just made me, for whatever reason, it just clicked in my head. I'm thinking of the person 666 and all that that I'm not in Hollywood, but I had to work with them because of reasons.
Right.
And I saw all that real quick in the span of about 2 weeks, and it was like, wow.
So can I jump in on that real quick?
You or Jason, whoever. I'm sorry that I went off on that rabbit hole.
All good. No, it's a good one to go down. So you talk about the satanic influence of music. There's one of the things that Jason and I covered on my podcast was, say, Juice World. His Instagram was like Juice World 999. There's video of him online giving his soul to the devil. So like whether or not the person watching this feels like there is a devil. All right, there's stone cold atheists. There's no God. There's no devil. We live, we die. That doesn't mean that they don't believe in that. All right, it's a very real thing to people. Enough to commit yourself on video to doing it, so that at least other people see that you're with it. You had XXXTentacion in his Team Satan hat, like. And then he ends up getting shot. You play these roles and you roll these dice and you live that life and you present that energy. Eventually, all of that energy comes back. And I think that there are probably more people who are. Sorry, my wife's making obscene gestures.
My wife did that earlier. It happened.
Bless her heart. So you have a lot of folks who have had a lot of success in multiple medias, whether it be music, whether it be film, whether it be both of them, and they make very clear their allegiance to something darker than what we're used to seeing. Whether it's Katy Perry singing about going through inner dimensions and or Lil Wayne rapping about being a reptilian. There are a lot of rappers who've rapped about selling their soul for success. And when you start looking at the rest of what they've done since then, Eminem is the perfect example. I mean, he said on the first major release, "I don't worship the devil," but just about everything that he's done is absolutely counter that. He's rapped about selling his soul. He's doing his devil horns on his iTunes music page. Yeah. I mean that's something that he's been doing for a very, very long time.
Yep.
Whether and if you believe in that stuff, then you probably go down the rabbit hole of sacrifices as well. And these are dudes who have suffered tremendous personal loss. And maybe it's a sacrifice, maybe it's not.
Okay. So I wanted to go off on a tangent on the personal sacrifice loss, whatever. But I noticed you said playing a role multiple times when you're explaining this. And so I'm kind of bringing this to Jason as the youth pastor. Like, are they, playing a role just to get ahead versus believing it? Is there, I'm trying to use good words.
Is there a difference?
Yeah, is there a difference? So, God, Bill, you know me. You know what happened when I was in Germany trying to get through ALS to become an NCO. I had to pretend, there's Scott Shirley and then there's Sergeant Shirley. So I'm playing a role as Sergeant Shirley versus who I am as Scott Shirley. But that's way different than playing a role of throwing up devil horns versus believing in God and Christ. You know what I mean?
Right.
I can go and yell at some airman as a jerk because that's what I have to do as my job, but I'm not going forward and being like, oh yeah, Satanist. I'm not going to these meetings. I'm not listening to the propaganda of Satanism and then going home and being like, yo, God, my bad. You know what I mean? Is there a huge difference there? What are we looking at with this moral dilemma that people are pushing on us? Am I way off topic? If I am, somebody say, let's stop and back up.
I don't know. I feel like, okay, so they're pretending to be Satanists to get the job, and they're willing to sacrifice their own, like, what is it? Convictions.
Okay.
Of what maybe they were even raised on.
Okay.
I don't know. This is all I know.
It's a hard one, right? It's a hard one.
I'll tell
Does
you
it
what
matter?
I know. I mean, if they want to compromise who they are, literally, just to get some money it's not worth it. The Bible says, why are you going to lose your own soul to gain the whole world? Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, nothing's worth, first of all, your name. Your name is all you got in this world, right? And who you are. And people will judge you by whether you're faking it or not. They're going to be like, well, you remember that time? Or,
Sorry, that's my wife's here.
that's
Love
okay.
you.
I didn't know we had one. So I saw yours,
I love you.
but I refilled it.
Oh, thank you. You're beautiful. Okay. Sorry.
I keep mine in the kitchen. I'm joking.
Yeah. No. There's no road between
dude,
the bedroom and the kitchen.
That's
Yeah,
a good Christian as me. That's a good
Yeah,
Christian
yeah,
as
yeah.
me, man. Keep
I'm
him
in the garage.
I have yet to buy my wife's shoes. She doesn't need them. She doesn't go outside. Yeah. No, anyways.
Well, she shouldn't be. We're in quarantine.
I have a lot of land.
I believe that Satan is the god of this world, and the Bible calls him the prince of the power of the air. And I explained like what I believe to Bill was he has access to the media, the airwaves, and he uses them to get to control people and to spread his message. This is so weird. Everything that's going on right now, isn't this weird? Is it not?
What do you mean? Like talking about COVID-19 or just the big shift in culture that we're having?
I'm talking about everything as a whole.
Yeah.
COVID-19.
We're in a weird place. Yeah.
Tornadoes. I'm talking about the whole Satanist movement being exposed and them not even being ashamed of it. It's like they're out in the open about it, and they're like, this is where we are in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody else has been in this time, in this day and age, ever in the history of man. We've had moments that have been close to it, but it keeps getting closer and closer. The darkness is being exposed more and more. And I think people are looking for answers. I think people are waking up. That was what Bill told me. He says, I feel like I'm awake and I'm seeing things and I can't unsee them. I feel like a lot of people, even Dalai Lama was trying to explain some stuff and he couldn't explain it. And he was like, yeah.
Sorry. So the Dalai Lama wrote the foreword for Kenneth Ranieri's second book. If you're not familiar with Kenneth Ranieri, he is the leader of a self-help group / sex cult called NXIVM. It was involved.
NXIVM.
So the Dalai Lama. So take everything the Dalai Lama says with a grain of salt. He's no better a judge of character than you or I.
Word. But this is what I'm saying.
Sorry.
So many people look to these so-called spiritual leaders because they dress in cloaks and walk around with beads in their hands and they look the part. I may not look the part. I got a nose all bent sideways and cauliflower ears. And, I don't look like I should be teaching children, but I'm equipping them with tools so they can survive these freaks, right? He was trying to say something. The whole thing is that people are looking for answers. And there's one simple answer, and it's Jesus. And in my opinion, and in my experience, and from what I see that's happening, everything points to Christ coming. First, the rapture, 7 years tribulation. I can get into that stuff. I really can't speak. I can't speak to the conspiracy so much because I really haven't been into it. But all of a sudden, it's being thrown in my face, like repeatedly. Within the last couple of weeks on multiple levels. First Bill, and then I have a friend that I used to train with at American Top Team, and she's sharing these videos with me and the QAnon all of a sudden, and I'm like getting overwhelmed. So I call my pastor. My pastor tells me, oh yeah, and she starts going into Weinstein, and then I'm connected with these like 3 top ministers that I never knew that they were like very like into this stuff, Perry Stone, Shuttlesworth, and Jonathan Shuttlesworth, and they're getting canceled and kicked off of YouTube and knocked off of Facebook. And President Trump has them come to his office to pray with them, and all of us like we're in the end times. It's like all of a sudden I woke up, I'm like, what's going on? And then early, my daughter wakes up and comes to me. She's gonna be 14 here next week. I'm like you. I got like kids out the wazoo, right?
Yeah. Well, I bought most of mine, but whatever.
Right.
It's a new time. It's a new era.
My daughter comes to me and she says, what do I say to my friend that asked me about being gay? What do I say to them? And so now I'm talking about, like you're talking about the porn, and you're talking about these things, and so we're there. My kids are getting these issues of the world as teenagers. Now I'll say when I was a kid, I wasn't raised with anything but the streets. I was raised in Miami, so I was raised a little bit different. I was raised a little.
Yeah, I know Miami. I got a good friend from Miami. Sorry.
So I got a lot of worldly experience as a young person.
Yeah.
You know, and I didn't become a Christian until I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having to explain these things to my daughter, and I'm like having to explain, you know, what's going on. And then it starts getting into doctrinal issues, and they're trying to skew the word of God and this and that. And here we are, man. This is where we're at. I'm having a conversation with two guys I've never met, and Bill somehow become really good friends with.
Yeah, and that's because we're open-minded people. I'm open-minded. Dan's open-minded. I don't know. I have literally no idea what Dan's religious beliefs are.
Yeah.
But me knowing Dan as a person, I can look Dan in the eye and be like, I believe in God. I believe that Jesus came to earth. And if Dan doesn't agree, he's going to go, cool, man, I accept that. But then we're going to have a logical conversation because he's not being brainwashed by all this nonsense, all of this eyes wide shut, all of this Satanism going on, because he uses his brain and he can disconnect as a human being. As an adult, I only know the military, and we disconnect from the real world a lot. Me and Dan have had talks since he's gotten out. I'm like, dude, what's the real world like? And he says it's way different. Yeah, it's amazing. But I mean, I'm at 33. I don't know the real world and the way people look at things. I just know what I'm told, and I've kind of been indoctrinated to believe that. And I'm finally starting to learn things on my own. Me and my wife's the one who brought me to Christ. You know, we've had our ups and downs as Christians. It's a growing thing. I can read the Bible and I'll say, yes, this makes perfect sense. No, that makes no sense. I choose to trust it because, you know, I have an OI in front of me from the military that says this is the way it is. This is the way it's always going to be. So I pick up a Bible. I'm like, okay, well, you know, this is the way it is. This is the way it's always going to be. It's easy for me, but she has questions. And so we kind of go back and forth on all of that. I lost my train of thought, unfortunately. I've had a lot of concussions. For those of you listening, multiple trips to Iraq, lots of explosions. Anyways, but God, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry, guys.
You're perfect, man.
Everybody's
so yeah, we're talking about you're talking about you know, Satanism, and people want to believe in something, and the path that, you know, Jesus laid forth before us, it isn't easy. You know, I'm a man. I have my main sin. I know what it is. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to say it, but I know what it is, and I address it with myself, and I address it with Christ. But then I talk to people. I had a conversation this morning. I went into work early because we're still working, mission essential, and I went down rabbit holes with Google. And after about an hour, I had to walk away from my computer, and I went to talk to a colleague of mine, and he started talking about Satanism. And he goes, man, one of our other friends Googled Satanism, and it says, you know, you can do this. Like, if somebody comes in your house and disrespects you, you can kill them. I'm down with that. If you come in my house and disrespect me, I'm totally okay with killing you. I mean, it speaks to my heathen self. But as a Christian, I'm like, no, that's wrong. Turn the other cheek. So these people are either they're being drawn to Satanism because it appeals to us as our born sinning nature, because we're born sinners, and you have to come to Christ through your own, admiration, whatever. And you have to choose that. I chose to come to Christ at 26 years old, and I've had setbacks and I've messed with that. But Satanism paints this beautiful picture. If you come to my house and disrespect me, I'll kill you. I understand that. If I look at a woman and I want to have her, I can go have her. That speaks to me. It's easier than being a Christian. So I'm kind of what I'm thinking right now is, are actors and media leaning on what is easier to entice people, or are they getting entrapped? Bill, this comes back to the video with the Epstein thing. Okay, I'm in power. I was tricked into having sex with a 14-year-old, and now I am your puppet to perpetuate the Satanistic ideologies that is, serve myself, deal with it later. See, am I way off base here, or am I not?
So I think this goes back to the film again.
Okay, good.
There are a lot of people, and it goes to intentional misinformation, and I think that you get that from Oliver Stone films, you get that from Netflix documentaries. A lot of these documentaries and these films are created to misinform us. Again, not put us down the path of the most information. Why don't they mention Jay Dyer? Well, because Jay Dyer has a wealth of information and he names names.
And he questions things.
Yes. He's also an Orthodox Christian. I don't know what necessarily that plays into it. I just can tell you that about him. But he and guys like Alex Jones are guys who have been saying names for a lot of years. And so you don't say their names because they're gonna give you the actual names. They can tell you all the information out there, right? That's kind of their job, is to tell you. And when I say they, I mean whoever that ambiguous overlord of how we receive our information, they have to tell us what they're doing. It's like a pack of cigarettes has to have its warning on there. The music, or the video game about violence has to tell you it's violent in the name, right? So you are making your choice. You are making the conscious decision to go down that path. You are doing this as a fully thinking individual, right? But if you sell it to kids and you put in a package where it's like it's more presentable to them, or you slip it in to the message, then that's what you do. And I think institutions like Netflix exist to do that. And going back again to the film, when they don't mention, I don't remember them mentioning Isaac Cappy's name in that film at all. There's also a grip of names that you don't really say, but no one's ever been sued for saying them. But Isaac Cappy, if you go down that rabbit hole, and he said the names, he said names like Tom Hanks, like Seth Green, like Steven Spielberg. He said all these names. Why wasn't it part of your awakening, including the body count of guys like Isaac Cappy? And there are more. There's more than just him. The Isaac Cappy rabbit hole is very intriguing, and I don't know enough about it to speak offhand and present it like I'm a big ball of knowledge, like I'm I don't know, Jason getting ready to tell me a story, because Jason knows the stories. I don't have all of the information. Jason spent like 20 years knowing all of the information. I've been doing this for not nearly as long. But the information is out there. And when you omit names, when you intentionally omit names or you intentionally loop names in, one of their shots in that documentary, there's a shot of the Corbett Report's logo. Are any of you familiar with the Corbett Report?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so the Corbett Report is produced by a guy named James Corbett. He's out of Japan, and he does a lot of truth to power stuff. He doesn't touch any of the superstitious. He doesn't talk about cults in Hollywood. He doesn't do any of that. But somehow he does truth to power stuff. He tells you about where the corruption is, and he provides links in the description to where he gets his information, where he cites his information. Now, in that loop of false media where they're trying to map independent versus CIA or government-controlled media, somehow, for some reason, in their little map of that, they looped him to like MSNBC, which is intentionally dishonest in this independent journalist who exists off of like Patreon donations to this monster media conglomerate. And you do that so that you can immediately take away the credibility, because you just, whether intentionally or not, you somehow took a piece of media, a truth to power media source, and you've discredited them intentionally by putting them next to MSNBC. And then you look at Jeremy Corbett, Jeremy Corbell, not Jeremy Corbett. There's a whole weird intentional misinformation spreading, and there's a lot of interesting information in I think in the film, but I think that a lot of it got it wrong or was intentionally disingenuous.
I think there was definitely some. I mean, it would be pretty smart of them to do that disinformation campaign within the documentary. Just like you said with Isaac, you see his name was Isaac Cope.
Isaac Cappy. Isaac Cappy. He was actually in a Marvel film or two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't like Marvel.
Well,
but he got woke, I guess you could say.
He I guess he just started going on Instagram Live and talking about who the pedophiles were, and he committed suicide by jumping off of a bridge head first.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Did he actually jump off it though?
Well, that's impossible. Well, if you go head first, that means you didn't commit suicide. It's most likely murder.
I would look into. I'm just going to say look into Isaac Cappy, because if he was done in, he was done really, really dirty. The social media aspect of it, I want to throw on this. Have any of you checked in on Chet Hanks?
Chet Hanks, like the Tom Hanks' son?
Yeah, the rapping son of Tom Hanks.
No, I've never followed him on social media or anything.
Okay, I check in on him every once in a while because he's Tom Hanks' kid, and he's got that.
And he's spiraling.
Yeah, and he's got the Illuminati tattoo on his heart.
Oh, does he?
He does. It's great. And it was prominently featured up until a couple days ago when he scrubbed his Instagram. He had a video on there where he was ranting about Trump supporters saying terrible things about his dad. Had a real open meltdown on social media. Anyone at home can look it up. It's really interesting. But he took all those videos down. He took all the references down to his dad. And it's all about, like, he's got like 9 images on his Instagram page. One of them is a photograph with a rapper by the name of Prodigy. Prodigy was a rapper who had an ongoing beef with Jay-Z, rumored occultist that he is. And Prodigy died under suspicious circumstances. He allegedly choked on an egg. Look into it. But there's a picture of Tom Hanks with Prodigy. And under this, people are like posting comments. I don't know why he hasn't shut his comments off, but it's like people, your dad's friends killed him. Your dad's friends are behind his death. But all the tattoo, the tattoo's obscured by like a bandana. His Instagram page was scrubbed. So imagine if, and I don't want to say that any of the Tom Hanks stuff is true because it's terrible stuff, and it would, I don't know, would any of us be able to watch Toy Story anymore?
Yep.
But imagine waking up and you find out like a healthy fraction of the United States feels that way about your dear old dad.
Well, My dad's dead, so I
Yeah, so's mine.
no,
Yeah, way to like the moment.
yeah.
Dear old dad. I'd say my stepdad's a dear old dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I mean, even so, yeah, I mean, my dad's dead, but if somebody gives my father a negative connotation, they're getting punched in the mouth. Quick as that. Um, my dad was, he was in the Catholic seminary, and he chose. Thank God, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So good on you,
Fair
Dad.
enough. Fair enough.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Dad. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott's
My
dad.
man. Yeah. But I remember asking him because I didn't know this for years. I think I was in my 20s when I found this out. And I was like, Dad, why did you get out of the seminary? First of all, thank you, but why did you get out? And he's like, well, they're a bunch of weird dudes. I was like, all right, cool. And that's all he would say about it.
Oh,
And he did a lot of that stuff. I'm going to try to bridge this. We may be going off subject again because you guys know me, concussions. Let's say it again. I'm good at going off subject. So my dad doesn't like to talk about a lot of things, but when my dad was younger, he had a pet goat. And I remember asking my dad, where did you get this goat? And he's like, oh, Fort Hood. And basically, if you guys watch, in Out of the Shadows, they talk about Zoolander. And the, MK Ultra series was in that, right? So Hollywood's trying to tell us about things. So Men Who Stare at Goats was actually a real Army psychological project. Stubblebine, if you have never Googled General Stubblebine, Google General Stubblebine, Major General Stubblebine.
Look up Third Eye Spies.
Yeah, there you go. And you can do Killing the Enemy's Mind is another book that you can look up. And basically, my dad, as an Army intelligence officer, was an aide for General Stubblebine, and he worked on the Men Who Stare at Goats program.
good.
And my dad stole a goat from the Men Who Stare at Goats program because they were trying to bend spoons and they were trying to kill goats with their minds. My dad felt bad, so he just took the goat. He wanted to save this goat's life. But yeah, I lost my train of thought again. See how that happens? Because I went.
Go to the back. Go to the back. The back. Stubblebine back. Stubblebine back. Yeah, Stubblebine back.
Golly. Bill, I'm ruining your podcast, and I apologize.
Oh, you're perfect. You're perfect.
Stubblebine came over to your house, remember?
Yeah, well, Stubblebine did come to my house. If the military ever asked me if I was hypnotized, I say no. But so in the mid '90s, I was, tens. This dude.
Man, hey, don't cop to anything right now. I would just roll it back.
But yeah, so this guy showed up, and he put his hands on me. He put his hand on my back, not on me. He put his hand on my back, and I was.
Why do you think he was hypnotizing you?
Anyways, no, but I remember I have very few very distinct memories of my childhood, but I met this guy, and he put his hands on my back, and for about 2 hours, I was in a trance. Whatever, he didn't do anything. He just put his hand on my back, and I was in the zone. And I remember he took his hand off my back, and you ever pet a dog for a long time, and then you pull your hand away, and the dog kind of snaps back into reality and just stares at you, pleading to put your hand back on it?
Yes.
He did. I did that. He took his hand off, and I stared at him, and he put his hand back on me, and I was back into that trance. He didn't do anything, just hand on me. And this guy is known for he claimed he could bend spoons with his mind. And I was reading part of the rabbit hole that I told you about earlier, Bill. I was reading a report, and I actually sent out a message to a guy that I found online. Hopefully he replies back to me about Fort Huachuca. He was there at the same time as my father. And he was talking about Stubblebine showing up and bending spoons with his mind. And part of the MK Ultra and all of that stuff, seeing what our human minds can do beyond what we understand.
Yeah.
And he said he's seen spoons bent by street illusionists. He's seen spoons bent by blowtorches. And these spoons that he saw was unlike anything he's ever seen before. So I reached out to this guy, and I'm kind of hoping to hear back from him. And if I do, Bill, you'll be the first one to know. Daniel will be the second. Jason, you probably won't hear.
Well, he'll hear from Bill. He'll hear from Bill for sure.
Yeah. But, God, I don't know how we got to this rant, because that's what I do.
You know what, Scotty? It's okay. You just, it's fun.
Thanks, Dan.
You're from Georgia. It's all forgiven.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, bless my heart.
Yeah. Bless you.
Oh no.
But
as I say that from Alabama right now, trust me, it ain't much better down here, guys.
if it wasn't for Mississippi, you'd be last.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But, Bill, do we know how we got here? Can we reverse time like 3 minutes or not? The listeners are going, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah,
Dad, we're talking about dear dad, our dear old dad. Your dad was
Okay, yeah. So you got me off on this rant on Dear Dad. Thank you, Jason.
Tom Hanks' son.
Tom Hanks' son. By the way,
yeah.
he's got one of those Anunnaki heads, one of those like long cone heads. He's got. I'm serious. Like I feel like a weird old man creeping around this young man's Instagram page. However, with that being said, the last time I checked, there was some gold. He had one of those long Anunnaki cone heads.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I see it. Tom Hanks might be this dirty, dark thing, and Rita Wilson might be lizard people. I get it. This is their thing. This is what they made. The lizard people and the creepster.
And that's their kid, right? Tom Hanks' kid is doing this?
Yeah, Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson's kid, Chet. Now, there was the other kid, Colin Hanks, who I don't think is Rita Wilson's kid. He was the one that was in Orange County. And occasionally goes on baking shows. I know that because my daughter watches baking shows.
So we're talking about, celebrities, and the movie said it. Celebrities are the demigods of today, the Hercules, the Achilles, all of that. So I was at one point, it was towards the end, excuse me. Let's see, towards the end, I started seeing all this, and it made me think of about 2009. A quick excerpt came out in the news. Jada Pinkett Smith, at 13, had an Instagram photo that came out, and it was her at 13.
Willow Smith.
Willow. Yeah, Willow Smith. She was 13 at the time, and she was in a bed with a Moses Arias who was 20.
Yeah, it was a rapper.
Yeah, and they both kind of appeared nude and very inappropriate.
Yeah.
And, I mean, so those are our demigods saying, oh, she's 13, he's 20. They both brushed it off. When the news finally got Jada Pinkett Smith to talk about it as her demigod self, she was like, they're my kids. I'm okay with whatever happened. Slasher is nothing sexual. And that was the end of story. Boom.
Right.
Whereas if I do anything in the slightest, like, people are going to question me days because I'm nobody. You know what I mean? I don't have the pull of the demigods to say, you know what I mean?
Can I jump in?
Sure.
That's where you get into the idea of sacrifice. You are sacrificing your children to whatever the higher goal, whatever the cause is. If this is something that you believe, then why wouldn't you commit your children to this if this is what you firmly believe? Now, there are a lot of conspiracies around Jada Pinkett Smith, Will Smith. Jason and I have discussed them at length, particularly the Will Smith stuff.
Okay, well, forgive my ignorance. Sorry, can I time out you real quick and we can get back to it? Forgive my ignorance, but how does Will Smith, a rapper who's known for not swearing, go from being the known for not swearing rapper in the 90s, early 2000s to having his daughter posing in highly seductive sexual positions with a much older man and be okay with it?
Well,
I don't know.
Okay.
Dwayne Wade's kid is a girl. That kid's like, what? How old is that kid? Like 6 or something?
He's a fetus. So Jason, do you want to address the Will Smith stuff? Because I thought you did a really good job of addressing some of the Will stuff before. I can jump in if you want.
I don't remember what I said. Honestly, I think I was just rambling.
Oh, well, I mean, now
That's
that
the
you had
best.
some time. Yeah, it was good.
What comes to mind when I'll just interject, what comes to mind with the child sacrifice stuff is just, Baal worship. Worshipers of Baal. Worship. Yeah.
No, I was going to say,
Yeah.
please explain this worshipers or Baal. If you're going to, for those of you who've never heard Jason tell a Bible story, you're in for a treat. All right,
Ooh.
Jason. Yeah.
School's in session.
Ah.
All
right.
Lord help me. Okay.
No pressure.
That was my prayer. Help me. All right. So like you think of like, say, the prophet Elijah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of him?
Elijah Muhammad?
No.
No. The prophet in the Old Testament. Elijah, not Elijah Muhammad.
Sorry, that was a dead serious question. I was joking around.
Okay. No.
I'll mail you a Bible tomorrow. It's okay.
Thank you.
I like how you pulled that F-bomb, by the way. You're like, oh, I can't say. No, I'm not going to cut it. Good job, Daniel. You're an angel.
So he was the prophet was preaching against them having Jezebel. Y'all heard of Jezebel?
Yeah, she was a prostitute, right? Or a whore or whatever.
Here's the thing. She wasn't a prostitute. She was a queen. And she married the king of Israel. And her people were worshipers of Baal.
Baal.
And
how do you spell that?
Baal.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he was telling them, you have to repent. You've caused the children of Israel to fall into sin and to start worshiping idols. And they started sacrificing their children to these idols and to this god Baal. And so he declared that it was going to be like a famine, to where there was going to be no rain for 3 years. And he didn't name that many years. He says there's going to be no rain until I say so. And sure enough, there was no rain. And then he says, I'm going to put on this big contest. And he puts on it. He goes, and the king at that time, his name was Ahab. And he meets with King Ahab, and he tells him, we're going to do a contest to see whose God is real. You bring the prophets of Baal, and I'll just bring myself. And so Jezebel had already been sacrificing the prophets of God, all the ministers of God, the priests. She'd been killing them by the hundreds. And Elijah felt like he was the only one left. And he wasn't. There were several in hiding. They were hiding in caves. And so he puts on this big contest, and he says, so we're going to sacrifice this bull. And the first one, God, to cause the bull to catch on fire, their God's a real God. So they have like 300 prophets of Baal out there, and they're cutting themselves. They're doing sacrifices. They have orgies. They're doing all of this stuff, worshiping to try to get Baal to catch this bull on fire. And Elijah, he starts mocking him. He says, maybe your God's asleep. Maybe your God just can't hear you. Maybe you need to scream a little bit louder. Maybe you need to cut yourself a little bit more. And he's mocking them repeatedly. This goes on for like days. And then he goes, it's my turn. So then he gathers 12 stones to make an altar. And the 12 stones represent the 12 tribes of Israel. And then he digs a trench around the altar. Then he brings the bull, and he puts the bull on top of the altar, and he sacrifices it. And all these things mean something. And I can get to that in a bit. And he puts the bull on the altar. And then he says, go get water. He gets these water down. They had very little bit of water left. Water was worth money at that time because it hadn't rained in so long. And they pour the water over the bull, and he says, and pour it into the trench. Everything, water, cover it with water. And everybody's like, how's it going to catch on fire? And it sounds like he's being like kind of prideful or egotistical about how great God is, right? My God's so great that he can even catch a bull that's wet on fire. And then he says a simple prayer. He says, God, you've heard my prayer. Show yourself today. And fire comes down from heaven. Boom. Fire hits the altar and consumes the bull, the sacrifice. And then Baal says, the Lord is God. and then all the children of Israel are watching. And they start shouting, "The Lord is God." And then he sees all these prophets of Baal, and he says, "Today God has proved himself real." And Elijah picks up a sword and he chops off 300 prophets of Baal's heads. And then he runs to the edge of a cliff and he bows down with his head between his knees and he starts saying, "Is there a cloud coming? Because God's sending the rain." And he has a helper, and the guy's like, "No." And he keeps praying, and then all of a sudden a little cloud comes on the distance, and then he starts pouring rain. He tells Ahab to get on his chariot, and he goes, "Go back to the kingdom and tell him rain's coming. The Lord sent rain." And then all of a sudden the Spirit of God comes upon him, and he runs faster than the horse, and he beats Ahab to the kingdom. All right. At that time, what was I talking about? Baal. They get there, and Jezebel's like, this is God did this, and Ahab's like, "No, it wasn't Baal that did it. It was Jehovah God. It was the Lord God that did it." And so she gets mad and she starts putting on a pursuit to go kill him. And then Elijah prophesies that she's going to be killed, and God tells Elijah to go to this place, and it's a crazy story because he goes on this long journey, and God feeds him. These angels come to him and feed him, and then these ravens come to him and feed him, and then he goes to this cave. It's a mountain cave, and it's the same mountain that Moses went to. And it's the same mountain so he goes to this mountain, and God gives him this revelation, and there's fire, and there's thunder, and there's a storm, and he says to Elijah, "Am I in the fire?" And Elijah says, "No." And he says, and it comes down that God whispers, and he says, "I'm in the still small voice." And so God whispers to him. It's not like this loud, thunderous, boisterous voice. And God whispers to him, and he says, "I want you to go to this town, and you're going to anoint this guy named Jehu, and he's going to be king." And so Jehu was like this general. And everybody knew Jehu because when Jehu rode a horse in the town, he rode it at 100%. He came in, and he was like a commanding dude. He was aggressive, and he was known for being like the man, right? And he said, so anoint him king. So he goes, he doesn't really get to that. He says, first you're going to stop off, you're going to anoint Elisha. And to make a long story even longer, Elisha ends up anointing Jehu down the road. And Jehu comes back into town, and the prophecy, Elijah gave a direct prophecy that Jezebel would die, and she would fall from a tower, and she would be eaten by dogs. And sure enough, that's what happened. Jehu runs to town. He throws a spear, all these crazy things. Jehoshaphat is this other king of Judah, and he gets in because Israel was split at that time, and they're at war, and this stray arrow gets away and hits King Ahab through his like breastplate right here, and he was disguised as a normal soldier because he didn't want to be killed, and somehow one arrow got shot and it hit him, and so he was killed. And Jezebel was pushed out of her window, out of her tower. If you can picture like a Rapunzel type thing, and she hits the floor, and before the people could get to her, a bunch of dogs ate her whole body, and there was nothing left. So Jezebel is like a spirit. And so the spirit of Jezebel is repeated in prophecy, and it's repeated in Revelation, and especially in the South. So I went to
Amen, brother.
I went to Bible college in the South. I went to Lee University in Cleveland, Tennessee, and nice. So when you call somebody, when a woman says, "Oh, she's a Jezebel," she ain't, she's not a trustworthy person. It's just not a person you don't name your daughter Jezebel, right? It's just not a name that's good about with women. So she represented the worshipers of Baal, and Baal was this god that was worshipped throughout biblical history, and even unto today. I've heard preachers talk about the millions and millions and millions of abortions that have taken place as people are sacrificing their children to Baal for self-gratification.
So can I ask a question though, just from like an ignorant perspective?
Yeah, go,
like seriously, because I follow the story. So are you saying, what is the version of Baal today? What is Baal today? What is the new religion? I guess you could say that people are following.
I feel like it's money, and I feel like so Jesus said it's God. You can't serve two masters. You either hate one and love the other. He says you can't serve God or mammon, and it's weird that he says mammon because mammon is money. And Jesus is constantly talking about people losing their soul for money. So I feel like this greed, it's always been that. It's always been power. I mean, even in Star Wars, they're the Sith, is always going for more power, right? It's like it's always for more self. I like to tell the kids when I teach the kids that the word sin, the middle letter of sin is I. And so it's when it's like it's all about yourself.
Yeah.
It's all about me. It's gonna be you're gonna sacrifice something so you can get ahead, right? If you're on a trail and a bear is chasing us, somebody's gonna break your leg and keep running, right?
Oh yeah, I'm knocking all three of you down. I'm out. Yeah. I've run a sub 5-minute mile, brother. You're done. But
well, I do have a quick, because like I guess it gets down to anything. I think we've all seen that because I grew up Roman Catholic. An extent of that, I was also in a cult for a couple of years. Long story, but it was true story. Yeah, and if Bill, you ever want
Bill's face just lit up. Yeah,
we can get into. I was in a legit Roman Catholic cult that was excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church for how crazy this stuff got up there. I had to fight kids at lunch to survive. Yeah, stuff got wild up there, man. I was crucified. Crazy stuff. So what I can say is, I mean, it's wild. But there is a perversion of even religion, right? Because you have bad people everywhere.
Yes.
So we look at the Vatican as an example where they build these massive buildings of that are worth millions and millions of dollars. That is just ridiculous. That doesn't need to be there to show that you're, the love of God or the power of God.
Right.
And it's such an archaic old system. And I may not be Catholic. I'm kind of indifferent right now. I don't know what I am, right? I'm getting older. I think more about these. I have to sit there and ask you a very simple question. What is more important? The faith that you have within yourself or the faith that is being told to you? And I've been told my whole need to talk to a priest. I need to get on my knees and pray and have the priest be able to somehow have a telephone line to God up there, and then I'm all of a sudden absolved. He's like my tax guy, that's what a priest is.
Give me 3 Hail Marys. And
3 Hail Marys, couple Our Fathers, and then you're good to go. You're good for this season. But it's definitely an interesting aspect. And I was wondering from your perspective as a pastor, and especially a youth pastor involving with a lot of young children that obviously are very confused, I'm sure, about religion, a lot of them. What would be your message to someone even like myself? What is your message to someone who's like, I don't believe in the big church, the buildings and the priests and everybody. I feel like there has to be a closer communication to God. And do you think we need, what is your opinion on that? You know what I mean? I don't know if I said that good, but
you did.
I'm trying.
I'm tracking wholly. Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
I love it, man. So that's a great question, one that I love to answer. So I like that you said they're preaching faith. So Jesus said everybody's giving a certain measure of faith. Everybody. So faith is in the book of Hebrews, it talks about faith. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That's what. So I'm sitting on this chair right now, right?
Yeah.
And I just have faith that it's just going to hold up by the action of me sitting on it. I show my faith by my action by sitting on it. And I believe, I'm not hoping, I believe that it's going to hold me. First of all, I'm not 300 pounds, so I know it will be able to hold me. I've seen these folding chairs just flat out go down by big people. But, wait, hold on.
We can still hear you.
Okay, so I have an incoming call. I'm going to cancel this. Well, not cancel this. I'm going to wait till it's back. Oh, here it goes. It got to decline. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
You're back.
Okay, so So each of us have a little, everybody has a faith inside of them. It's not, you were born with it. I can't teach you faith. You already have faith inside, but it grows. So our faith grows by the word of God and hearing the word of God. And so the word of God spoken, or it has to be spoken. Here's a weird thing: through you. You have to speak the word of God. I can't just speak it to you. You have to speak it. So when I know this is going to get crazy, and we're just talking crazy, and Bill's giving me the time to talk. So when God breathed the breath of life, in, that breath of life was he gave you the ability to speak his word. So when Adam named the animals, he didn't name the animals, he called them forth. He spoke them forth. When the Bible says that God is not a man, that he cannot lie, so it's like God can't lie. Let me explain it. If I were to take, say like this heavy bag right here, if I were God and I'd say this heavy bag is now white, this heavy bag's white. We can obviously see it's black. But if I say it's white, it would immediately turn white. Because God, when he speaks, things happen. So he's giving
his speaking of truth automatically make things come into reality in a sense.
Exactly. So right. He spoke light, and light hasn't ever stopped. He said, let there be light, and it wasn't the sun. It was light. And I'll get into that. That's a whole other thing. Okay, so now when it comes down to faith and the priesthood and all that, in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9, it said, God called us out of darkness into his marvelous light. He calls us a royal priesthood. So what does that mean to be a priest? Is that we have direct communication with God. Right now I'm talking directly with you. I pressed the button and it gave me direct access with the email and all that stuff. It gave me direct access to you guys. And we're talking. We're having a conversation right now. We have direct access to God through the blood sacrifice of Jesus. What does that blood sacrifice mean? I'm going to get right back to Elijah, just because I use it. But I could take any instance in the Bible, any story, and it always points to Jesus. So Elijah, when he took those 12 stones and he built that altar, he rebuilt that altar and he set the animal sacrifice up, right? The first sacrifice, when he sacrificed that bull, was the blood offering. So it says there's no remission of sins without the shedding of blood. When Adam sinned, he tried to cover himself up with leaves. Those were his own works. That would be him trying to do his Our Fathers, Our Marys, his good works, giving money, doing some good works to try to work his way up to heaven, right? So that it didn't work. So God had to cover him with animal skins. There was an animal sacrifice. Something had to pay the punishment for his sin. His sin was disobedience. It wasn't eating a fruit. It was disobeying God. And that's what sin always boils down to. Are you being obedient or are you disobedient? So then the next one, after Elijah sacrificed the bull and the blood was there, he washed it with water. In James, it says, not James, it's the cleansing of we have to cleanse ourselves with the washing of the word of God. We renew our minds. In Romans 12, it says, renew your mind with the word of God. We have these avenues and thought processes that happen that are being trained, that we watched on that video, and how we're being trained all the time. But if we read the word and we pray and we meditate on the word, and we as priests ourselves seek God and communicate with God, he renews our mind and he washes and cleanses us of these things that we cannot unsee, right? Or these images or anything. And he helps us to view the world how he views the world. And then the last one was the fire. So the fire was the brazen altar. So in the tabernacle of God, you had the blood sacrifice, you had the laver where they would wash their hands. And the laver was built this is when the Israelites left Egypt. God gave Moses the commandment to make a tabernacle. And there was the blood sacrifice. And then there was the laver where they would wash the blood off of themselves. So the laver was made from the mirrors of the women that they took away. They were given all the gold and silver from Egypt. And they made this laver. It's a pool, like a bird pool type thing. to wash their hands and their face off the blood was made from the pool. So it was mirrors. And in James, it talks about the word of God being like a mirror. So if you look at the law of God and you don't see, you can't see yourself, you can't correct yourself. So you look at a mirror, you clean yourself up. You're supposed to look at the Bible and correct yourself. So when they wash their hands after the blood sacrifice, they correct themselves with the word of God. And then comes the fire, was the brazen altar. And then the brazen altar, after they took the sacrificed animal and they put it on the brazen altar, just like Elijah did. And then after the fire came the presence of God and the promise of God, which was the rain that came right after. Actually, it came after he sacrificed the prophets of Baal. So what happens is, after the sacrifice and the cleansing and the renewing and burning, we have to get rid of things that are destroying our lives, that are causing us to worship idolatry. I would go so far as to say, I tell my family and my kids, we're always researching what we're watching. What is it? There might be an idol in my house. There might be something in my life that is giving glory to Satan, and I don't know about it, and I got to get it out. So we have to make these sacrifices. There may be friendships in our life that are not uplifting to us, and they're pulling us down. We have to get rid of those relationships. Or maybe somebody, we're men. You might be talking to a woman that you shouldn't be talking to, right? Or something that's
Definitely.
Right.
No,
you have to rid yourself of these evil things. And then after they have all of that done, the priest will go into what was called the Holy of Holies. And within the Holy of Holies, they had the menorah, they had the showbread, and then they would go into this behind this curtain. It was a veil, and behind that curtain, if you remember the Raiders of the Lost Ark, there's the ark, cherubim angels facing each other, and it's called the mercy seat. In that box, that the Ark of the Covenant was made of acacia wood, and then overlaid with gold. And then the top piece of it was solid gold, and not like the TV show. And inside of that ark was the 10 Commandments and the staff that Aaron had, and it would bud, and it was from an almond tree, and it would bud every once in a while whenever it happened. And that's a whole other. Everything points to Jesus. This is craziness. So when we think about being a royal priesthood, when we enter into prayer, we're coming in covered with the blood sacrifice that Jesus made at the altar. So when he died on the cross and the sky became dark and the earthquake shook the earth, it split the temple, and the curtain was ripped in half, the veil, and made way for everybody to go to the Holy of Holies. Not just the high priest, everybody. The peasants, the Romans, the centurions, everybody has access to heaven through the blood of Christ. So that means you and I both can right now just talk to Jesus, talk to God, because of his sacrifice that he paid for us. And that's where the devil keep people blind. He doesn't want anybody to know that truth. And then once you have access to that, your spirit is born again, and you're given that breath to speak the word of God and to speak blessings into your life and speak blessings into people's lives. And you become a minister of the Lord when you become a Christian, when you accept that right there. And the term Christian was given to Christians by other people in the book of Acts. It's not like they came a gang name overnight. With a Christian, they just go out tagging. No, I don't know. Did that help the question?
Yeah, no, that's definitely, it's very informative. There's a lot of good things. I like I guess what you could say is how you described when Jesus died in the earthquake and it split the veil and the temple. It's an interesting perspective I hadn't heard, because I did grow up Roman Catholic till I was 18. But that's interesting. It's definitely given me some stuff to think about, man. And I do appreciate you taking your time out of your day to talk about it. It's really interesting.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Bill. I see your hand raised because
so-
I heard Dan yelling at his cousin for hands raised and him taking. You know what I mean? Dan.
Yeah, we
Bill
have
had
to
his
raise
hand
our
raised
hands in our
first.
podcast. We're all children. We can't. No, we have to like go, hey, I'm my turn. But go ahead.
Well, I just
I do have something to add to Jason's expertism point. Go ahead. So I'm sorry, Bill. I'm sorry.
I was curious, and this is going to seem off topic, but the supplements behind you, is that a sponsor of yours? And if so, would
Yeah,
you like to give them a shout out? Give them a shout out right now.
I will, man. ASC is a great company. ASC Supplements, veteran owned, and they're amazing. And these are the purest products that you're going to find on the market. And really, because, when you ever go buy a pre-workout or you do whatever, not to mention, Jason, come on, man. When have you seen, this is a little Satanist. I know we just got off talking about this, but this is but when have you ever seen a pre-workout product that is designed specifically for the Hispanic community? I mean, just look at these things. El Jefe, Sicario, classy looking stuff. We got, intra workouts, EAAs, hitter pump pre, boss stim pre-workout, good stuff. No, but seriously, the guy's killing it. He's selling in England, Australia, all over the world. He just hit his first month selling 1,000 orders recently. Nice. This guy's about to take off, and I don't want to tell you right now.
And give it a chance. I'll give him I've never used his products, but knowing him as a human being, I drink black coffee before I work out, but I would support him without having his products because I know him as a human being. He's open, he's honest, he's a good person. Yeah. But
he's the coolest dude I know.
All right, what's the name of the company again?
Okay.
It's ASC Supplements. You go to ASA as in Alpha Sierra Charlie Supplements, ASCsupplements.com, and you can find all the stuff on there.
All right. Now, do you have a super duper sweet ass promo code that people who are listening right now can type in and get a discount?
Yeah, it's Zubox25. We'll get you 25% off at your checkout.
That's a big number. That is, you see a lot of 10%. You see a couple of 5%, but 25%.
He's a good friend. He's a good friend.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. So that's all right. ASC Supplements.
Yeah, ASC.
ASC. All right. All right, very cool. I want to make sure that we got that in and that we were all covered.
I appreciate it, man. I always, I'm not sponsored by Jameson yet, but
you're just an alcoholic. It's cool.
Yeah, it's just no problem, man.
Tomato, potato.
I did want to bring one thing up that has been kind of on my mind throughout this podcast.
Shoot.
Okay. Okay. Now we've been talking about multimedia or the mainstream media and all this this evil stuff, and I just want to say something, and this is my main thing as to why it's good that we are aware that it's there. And the main reason why we're aware is because of the Constitution of the United States. And I think that's really important. Like, I don't like Satanism, okay? Like, I'm not supporting Satanism, but there is the religious freedom in America that allows people to go be Satanists, unfortunately. But we have to ask ourselves, like, is that an acceptable thing in America as far as should we legally allow them?
Real quick. So the very last note I have on my paper, I was looking at the Satanism, and I said, when does taboo Satanism become too far? Is the very last thing I wrote.
Okay.
So Satanism.
That's an interesting point, because what was it, like a couple years ago? Didn't they want to put the Beelzebub or whatever statue next to the 10 Commandments at some state house, some courthouse a couple years ago? I know they were arguing to have it there. Whatever I don't know. I'm just saying, like, as far as a constitutional country, like Jason, you have your right to go preach your religion, and no one should be able to stop you from doing that. And the same thing with Satanists. I don't agree with what they're saying. They're obviously not very nice people. But I'm just saying, from a legal, constitutional perspective, how do you guys view this type of stuff?
So, can I jump this quick first? So, Jason said his whole spiel, and I was ready to go off on my spiel of religion, which is Christian, but it's different from what Jason sees. You know what I mean? 3 of the 4 people in this conversation have been in the military. We took an oath to defend the Constitution, saying people can have their own rights, which means we accept the fact that what I believe isn't what Jason believes, isn't what Bill believes, isn't what Dan believes, but I'm not going to turn my back on any 3 of you. Jason could be a heathen, Satanist. Bill can be a Buddhist. Dan can be whatever Dan wants to be, a pagan, whatever. The point is, at the end of the day, I'm still going to support you as a American and as a human being.
Yeah,
I
but
won't
I think
ever.
Okay, but hold on.
That's what our
Okay,
Constitution says, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But let's say, I think what Jason was kind of getting at, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but if there's someone in your life that is not good for your life, not being productive, you can have friends that you disagree with. I would imagine this is just me speaking for you, Jason. I'm sorry, tell me if I'm wrong, but like, if I'm in your life and I'm like sacrificing my goats on your front lawn and burning crosses, you probably aren't going to want to be friends with me. All right.
Jason,
I'm just saying.
Jason, can I take this one?
Do it.
Okay. All right, man. So I'm going to get on my Christian high horse. So
It's
Jesus
a terrible neighbor,
didn't.
by the way.
I mean,
Okay.
not the nicest guy.
No, if you're
Okay.
sacrificing goats and burning crosses in his yard, that you are a terrible neighbor. You are infringing on his property, and that's where your Second Amendment and First Amendment kind of become things.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interject.
Yeah. No.
Well worth it.
Besides the fact that it's a terrible neighbor, I have a terrible neighbor. All right, and we'll go into that if you guys want. Remind me about my terrible neighbor. Anyways, Jesus did not spend his time with the good Christian people. Jesus hung out with the lowlifes and the tax collectors.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian. I spend the majority of my time with people who do not believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
One of my subordinates, I'm not gonna say his name, is completely anti-God. Me and him talk about it every now and then. We don't get fussy, but he says, I don't think your beliefs in God are correct. And I say, I don't think your beliefs in no God are correct. And we will have intelligent conversations, and then we'll walk away. And every now and then it comes up, but we never get fussy at each other. So him believing that he can go out drinking, gallivanting, cheating on his wife is not a friend I should have. But me as a Christian, I'm going to keep being his friend, because me and my wife talked about this earlier. Even if, Jason, I'm sorry, but even if the Bible is a crock, it gives us kind of a good guideline to live by.
It's more guidelines for sure.
Yeah, I read my Bible. My Bible says, don't go kill people. Don't go cheat on my wife. You know what I mean? And those are things that I can understand. I'm not going to say I've never been, not tempted to go cheat on my wife. I've never been not tempted to go and just punch somebody in the face because I don't like them. But the Bible,
one of those people, I'm sure.
yeah, once or twice. Anyways, so the Bible gives me as a person that kind of moral guideline. And yes, I do believe at the back half that there is a God. And I'm willing to accept, if you don't believe there's a God, I accept that that's what you believe, because we're Americans and we're supposed to be rational. We don't have a government forcing this is the truth down your throats. We don't have China saying every Westerner is bad. Spit on them when you see them. We're Americans. We're allowed to have our train of thought. At least we used to be. But now it's left versus right, Democrat versus Republican. Anyway, but for the longest time, you could be Buddhist, Judaist, heathen, whatever you want to be. And as long as, you accept that's who that person is, accept that person for who they are. You can try to change them. If they don't want to listen, that's on them. I talk to them as a human being. You know what I mean?
That's a good way to look at it, honestly.
I've been doing this for years. I mean, when I first met my wife, Bill, you knew me pre-marriage. I was.
I can't imagine.
Dan did not know me.
I met you. You were what? You got married when?
Before I met you.
Well, I know. Okay.
2010. I got married in 2010.
Yeah, so a couple years.
You're a heathen.
Yeah.
That's without going into too much detail. There's some. I mean, I'm not. Without going into too much detail, like I don't know how you don't have more kids Or I'm not so sure that you don't have more kids, actually. Whatever. I mean, but that's a lot of bad decisions. A lot of decisions, I don't know, that you probably wouldn't make now were made then. But I think that's also part of growing.
Yeah, and it's part of being a human. It's part of being open to what other people have to say.
But your journey to Christ might be different than somebody else's, or Jason's journey to Christ, or whoever.
And Jason was talking about Elijah, the Old Testament. He got into money, which is consumerism, which is Baal. And I mean, yes, I'm a Christian. I have a huge issue with mainstream churches because me personally, I feel like a lot of mainstream churches, they push tithing and over-tithing down your throats, trying to get your money out of you. And then they build the big things like you see in Catholicism churches. So you asked him, hey, is it what you're taught or what you learn? For me, it's kind of what I learned on my own. I grew up in a family that said, yes, God is a thing. We don't acknowledge glorified religion. Eventually, I went to a solid stand-in church, and I went there for many years. I was like, all right, the church makes sense. And then I started peeling back the layers of the onion, and now I'm back to kind of, I agree with some of it, but more or less, he said, there's an open communication between me and God. I pray every night. I pray every morning when I wake up. And it's not always super long. It's nothing huge or elaborate. Most times it's like, good morning, God. I love you. Thank you for this day. God, thank you. I'm falling asleep next to my wife and not Bill Baker. Thank you for this night. You know what I mean? But so prayer doesn't have to be this huge elaborate thing, but there is an open communication. And 2 times in my life, I have literally heard God say something to me. One of the most vivid ones is there was a rocket attack in Iraq. There were rockets coming in. There was a job that needed to be done. I was halfway to where I needed to be, and I panicked. And I squatted down, and I stopped what I was doing because I couldn't do it. And God at that moment spoke to me. He said, get up, keep going, do your job. It's going to be okay. And I got up, and I kept going, and I did everything I was supposed to, and I earned other people bronze stars. And it's something that's hard for me to explain. And if you've never heard it, before I heard it, I would not believe you. I would look at you in the face and say, you're fucking lying to me. But once you do hear it, and if you accept that that's what you heard, then you believe it. Yeah. And so we go way back to the U.S. Constitution of you believe what you want to believe. Dan, if you think the devil is talking to you and the devil's telling you to go do boogaloo stuff, go do it. But what I ask is when I want to have an open, honest conversation with you, and I want to say, hey, man, this is what I believe. Listen to what I say. And when you say this is what you believe, I will stop and I will listen to what you believe. Yeah. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. And too many people have fallen away from that.
I think that's true. I think that's true, but you got to look at someone like as just a mainstream example, which I think everyone's pretty aware that Kanye kind of came out as a Christian. It's like he made a whole album dedicated to God.
And there's your demigod.
Which I thought was interesting. Not that I don't really know much about the situation. There you go, Bill. I see him. He's edging in, dude. So, like, all right, like, what do you think about that, Bill? About Kanye, who used to be like, what, I'm a god, all this stuff. I know crucifixion imagery.
I do believe that Kanye is faking the funk. I do like that he did not show up to Joel Osteen's Easter Sunday gathering. That does kind of warm the heart because I think that Joel Osteen is probably I'm not a person who should judge anyone's Christianity. It's not what I do. I'm not very good at that. But Joel Osteen, anyone who I don't know is in charge of their own bureaucracy scares me.
Yeah.
Like if like you're man, there's a whole lot of that is very very questionable. Now, so going back to the original question that was posed to kind of Jason, like I'm a big fan of the freedom of speech. We had a situation here in Kenai, Alaska, over the course of the last couple of years, involving the Church of Satan being able to say a prayer before a borough assembly meeting. Now, it got to the point where the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster was able to give a speech.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So like they sort of took the position that if you want to just do it, just get out, just get it over with. We're here. Just
Yeah.
if you can write it off on taxes, then why not? But it with the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster, it exists almost to mock religion, and it does. Like if we're being 100% honest, and
Absolutely.
that's so. That goes back to freedom of speech and freedom of religion being wrapped up in one of the same. You could say whatever you want. You have to be willing to take responsibility for the things that you say. But because this is all going back to the film Out of Shadows, I think that what they're doing when they present the idea of Satanism in this, they talk about Anton LaVey. If you do any kind of research into Anton LaVey, he was a fraud. The Church of Satan on their website, they have a list of the myths associated with Anton LaVey. Who his parents were, saying that he worked for the San Francisco Police Department. He took and he admitted to being a fraud. He said that's kind of what Satan does. It was this big old cop out. It's like that, but that's who. I don't think any of what you're saying is actually real Satan worshiping. You have. In the film they referenced Eddie Murphy interacting with Sammy Davis Jr. and Sammy Davis Jr. being an avowed Satanist. They didn't break out the real stuff. All right, the real stuff is stuff like Saturnalia.
Who? What is that? Saturnalia? What is that?
So I'm going to reference a Rascast verse, and I might be a little bit off, but December 25th.
No, send it.
The date, was initially Saturnalia. It was a pagan holiday. That was why we went to that originally. It's why we went to December 25th, because the pagans were already celebrating the day anyway. Why not just take them in? Just bring them all into the fold of the church. So there's a large group of people that are into like Saturn worship. I'm not familiar enough to dive into that, but I will say that if they're going to lead you, if they're not going to tell you where the good information is, they're not going to cite their sources, but the people that they are going to cite are highly questionable.
Which is like that woman, right? That you said.
Yeah, Liz Cronkin. Yeah. So, by the way, you can all look into that. Judge, generate your own opinion. But if you are telling me that this is the good shit, and I'm watching that, and I know that to not be the good information, I know the better information is over here. I know that you are withholding a lot of stuff. Then I have to wonder what your agenda is. What is your actual agenda if you are, say, discrediting someone like James Corbett? Meanwhile, the lady that said that JFK is alive and he's Q, she's the lady that you're giving her the noise.
We don't talk about JFK with me here.
I mean, that's a whole other one. Look up E. Howard Hunt. There's a lot of JFK stuff that we're intentionally not told, and it goes to these Oliver Stone movies. Oliver Stone intentionally misinforming you, putting. I get it. It's a film. JFK was a film, but there were things that they said in that film that were definitely intentionally wrong because you needed to make it a better story, right? But the true story is better. Let me ask you a question. If if the true story is that Oswald was a really, really good shot, okay, that he actually was a good shot, and in that film they portrayed him as a terrible shot, does it make a difference in the story? Well, it does kind of give credence that he could have shot him, all right? However, there are a whole bunch of other sources that say Oswald was downstairs during the shooting. And so you look at what's presented versus what's not presented, and how things are presented is fact when they're not. The truth isn't there. You're intentionally leaving out a huge chunk of information. Real quick, I can give you another example of Netflix doing it, but intentionally misinforming people. But I believe that this video, for everything that it made us feel when we watched it, there was a reason it didn't tell you the rest of the story. There's a reason that they give credence to these folks that you can do some research in and make your own opinions. But they don't tell you where they got this other good information, because if you get the rest of that good information, you're better armed. You're better prepared to see what's coming at you. It's better prepared to like if you watch a film like say Pokemon Detective. There's some really, really adult, really dark things in that film, dealing with technocracy, dealing with becoming avatars, living on in a digital world. You're talking about ghosts. You're talking about a lot of really dark stuff that they address also in the Pokemon TV show. There's a lot of darkness that is presented as stuff for our children. And so when we're talking about the stuff that you can easily look at and you're attributing information to people who may not be the best source of information, I don't know. But at the same time with Liz Conklin, she's got to spew out a whole bunch of information. Some of it's going to be very wrong. But you have to be able, if they're going to present you with a name and a face that you can Google, but they're not going to provide a name or a face. The other stuff you can Google, there's a reason for that.
Then why is it so hard to Google things right now?
Well, Google's owned. Google's owned.
Yeah, but no. So I want to come back to this whole avatar nonsense, and my 5-year-old can actually be Pikachu if she wants to be. So be it. But Bill told me to find this video, that Out of the Shadows, and I was trying for about 20 minutes to Google it, and then I couldn't find it until Bill sent me the link. You know what I mean?
So,
and then Dan sent me a link too for a different video.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to send it to you, Bill, when I get it, when I can.
I think I sent it to Bill already.
Oh, did you? Pedogate 2020? Mouthy Buddha?
I'll take a look at it. I'll check again.
It's like 24 minutes. It's interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, so we have all this freedom of information. I don't want to get too far away from my child can be Pikachu if she wants to be. But yeah, you're talking about freedom of information and finding stuff. So I don't want to go too far, but I was at work this morning and I started Googling when was the big 6 media companies created, identified. And before I could even start clicking links, my government-owned computer stopped working.
Oh.
So
yeah.
Oh, Jason, tell the story about your TV.
So I stopped.
Jason, tell them about your TV.
Okay, so hold on. I was just grabbing a cup of coffee because.
Yeah, he's making raviolis.
It's Friday. You like to party.
Yeah.
Well, you know me. My wife is giving me the look, because she just finished making minestrone. And
I already got the look twice.
It's worth it. It's Friday. So
Yeah.
okay, so last night I'm watching the video. So when I first saw the video, I hold on. I got a message from one of my friends and she messaged me and it was like, watch this video, right? And so I started watching the first 10 minutes. My battery's low, and I'm like, I'm gonna go watch it on the television. So I walk out to the living room. My son's out in the living room on the couch, and he's like, he likes to sleep on the couch, whatever. And I go, we're gonna watch this documentary on Satanism in the government and TV and media and all that. And he's like, okay. And then I go to turn on my television, and it's like these lines, red lines, all the way down my television. Right after I said that, and it's not working, and I got covered with goosebumps, and I go, the devil doesn't want us to watch it, Isaac. And I lay hands on my television, and I rebuke the devil, and like, you will work in Jesus' name. And then turned it back on, and it worked. And it just
Praise be God. Praise be to God. There you go.
It worked. So,
by the way, I've got a dishwasher that could use some attention.
is that the Wi-Fi one?
Yes. It's a weird dishwasher.
That's the one you got a good deal on it, wasn't it?
Yeah. I got
Too good of a deal, apparently.
You got a Wi-Fi dishwasher? That's a thing?
It's a smart dishwasher. For a guy who hosts a podcast called Woke and Baked. I don't know why I got a smart dishwasher. Right now, now I'm plugged into the industrial dishwashing society.
Yeah, right.
Industrial dishwasher. They're trying to get all my information so that they can sell me more dishwasher detergent.
Absolutely.
China knows how many dishes you do a day.
Right?
That's a big family, man. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of dishes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do a load a day plus hand washing.
By the way, I like the White Claw, you classy guy.
Yeah, super adult-like.
So here's the deal. All right. So I did not make a beer run on the way home. I finished my last however many Coors Lights. So I'm drinking my wife's White Claws. All right. Coors spelled with a K. I have a whole bunch of craft beers in my mini fridge, but that's a different story for a different day. We'll go there later. Sorry, I'm drinking White Claws.
You don't want them drinking those craft beers, Bill. Stuff gets wild, okay?
So,
so my first podcast was with Zubak, and I drank, I don't know how many craft beers, and the podcast ended with me vomiting in the toilet. So,
oh, wow.
So, we also did beer runs. No, you and I did. You did a couple of beer runs to Holland with me as well, if I'm not mistaken, for the brown bottle Heineken.
Brown Label Heineken and Chai May beer.
Yeah, so you're talking. I don't want to get credit here because I don't drink anymore, but like I like to think that maybe I introduced Scotty to overpriced beer that hurts to drink. Congratulations, Scotty! You can now drink a loaf of beer.
Yeah, basically. Bill introduced me to things other than Coors Light. Before I met Bill, I was like, oh yeah, Coors Light. And then he's like, no, man, let's go to Holland. And we drove to Holland, and, well, it's a whole new world.
Absolutely.
So in Holland, they have their brown bottle is a Pilsner. It's not the lager that you get here. It's brewed different. It tastes different. Yeah. It's it's delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Probably got the devil in it.
So good.
Potentially. It's
only Budweiser for me.
It's the Dutch. They're into some weird stuff.
Wasn't it Monks that started brewing it first?
Yeah, it was. Monks started making beer. Wasn't that's a pretty?
What's the history behind that? There's it trying to like a way to feed people, like it was nutrition, right? Or you couldn't drink the water. Yeah, probably just as much that.
I just did it. I just did a college course on this actually. So they were trying to figure out water was dirty in the past. And they figured out that mead could be. My internet connection is unstable. This dropped at the end of it. Sorry, guys. All right, it's back. Yeah, go ahead. Zoobox. Yeah. But anyways, so they figured out, we can brew mead. It'll keep people alive, they're going to be a little weird, but they can drink years until coffee came around.
It's the chopped and screwed version of the story.
A suitable substitute for, yeah. And then, coffee came along, and coffee's what pulled us out of the Dark Ages and led us to the Enlightenment.
Wow.
Am I that choppy?
Not anymore. Not as when you start singing the praises of my K-cup. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time.
We're so off track.
It's okay.
Yeah,
it's all right.
How long have we been going, Bill?
Like, we're going on 2 hours. Like, I got to make dinner for my family. Yeah.
As it should.
As we should. Yeah. So, gentlemen, I want to say thank you for your time. If you're interested in Zoobox, it's on every streaming platform. Unlike
Zoobox Podcast. Well, don't worry. I'll teach you how to do it, man, for free.
Oh, snap. I'm on everyone but Spotify. Zoobox.
I listen to Zoobox. Those are the only 3 podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah, if you just type Zoobox Podcast, it'll come up. But
I mean, I'm going with just Zoobox. It should work.
I hope so.
Hey.
They're weird and Jason has his hand raised. You know what that means.
Okay. I wanted to say I wasn't like disrespecting people's like beliefs. I was saying I was saying if there's somebody in your life, like say I'm a Satanist and I'm like, hey Scott, I want you to join me tonight in a baby sacrifice.
And you might want to say no.
Yeah.
You might if you're a good Christian, you might say no.
Yeah.
No baby sacrifices tonight. What is this, Canada?
Agreed. No on the baby sacrifices.
Yeah, by all means, praise the word of Anton LaVey and stuff, whatever. Happy people don't shoot up movie theaters, but like be aware that he wasn't the most honest guy. And it's weird. Like anytime that you create a religion in the age of like, I know I'm sure he didn't plan on the internet coming around, but like, just be cognizant of who you're taking your word from. We've all been caught out there, like we're getting like bad information from bad sources and running with it. You just got to be cognizant of it. Sometimes you do that, sometimes you don't. But you got to have a healthy distrust for your sources of information, especially if it's something that's interesting to you. You got to do more research because no one else is going to do it for you.
Agreed.
Yeah, read everything that you look into everything when somebody tells you, like, Bill, you remember Iraq? Possible rocket attack between this time and that time, and it never made any sense.
Hey, you're breaking up. It's almost like they don't want us to talk about it.
Okay. Am I still breaking up pretty good?
No, you're good now.
Okay. No, yeah. Like I agree with Bill. Just pay attention to what people are telling you, man.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the secret to the universe.
Yep, there it is. We just heard it.
And read whatever you want. I don't care.
Hey, just so I'm on the right page. You just dropped an episode today on the art of not getting along.
Oh yeah, is it a broken heart? For the picture.
I don't know. It's not showing up. I'm on your iTunes page, but that's the one.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Subscribing now.
Thank you, sir.
Now, sir.
Me and my brother got in a huge fight, and I won't ruin it for you.
Sean.
Yeah.
What'd you do with the guitar? Did you hit him in the head like the honky tonk man?
I wish, dude. I wish I lived closer to him so I could do something about it, but alas.
Well, thank heavens for the honky tonk man.
Yeah, I know, dude. Honestly, but he should be. I just want to say thank you, Bill, for having on, and maybe we can get you on ours someday. And Jason, it was nice to meet you, man. I'm actually getting into jiu-jitsu, so I'm gonna claim you as inspiration, so you can take that wherever you need to go. I just want to say thanks for being on, guys. I had a lot of fun.
So, Daniel, give me your email address, and I'll send you a copy of the video.
Excellent. That would be perfect.
So
and I can post it up. Do you want me to post it up for you?
We'll call it a joint cast.
Yeah, like a joint. I could throw it up on ours just so people, and I could put it in you in the description.
Yeah,
We'll get it
absolutely. Ditto,
Yeah,
ditto.
like some Inception stuff.
Yeah.
We'll get it.
All right, man. Sounds good. All
Yeah,
right.
me and Jason will just keep reading this thing, so that's all right. Yeah.
And look into E. Howard Hunt. All right. You guys have a great day.
Hey,
All right.
thanks. You guys.
Scotty,
too.
thank you
All
so
right,
much
good
for putting this
talking,
together.
Hey, anytime, anything for you, Bill. I love you, buddy.
All right. Love you too.
Bye.
Jason, thank you so much.
See you, bro.
Enjoy your coffee.
I will.